All right, bang, bang. Today is Wednesday, October 16th, Chicago Dog Walk. We are back here for part two to talk about the stalking, the haunting, the watcher. I don't know exactly the best way to kind of frame it.
The Watcher. It's like the Dr. Dre song.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Watcher.
So needless to say, if you didn't listen yesterday, you should definitely listen to the part one first. This is part two. We said we were going to pick it off with the human element. So, Chief, if you just kind of want to lead us into that.
Yeah, so just up to speed now that they can't find their home. They're fearful for their children, the Broaddus family. They can't move in because they're scared they're going to get fucking murdered by the Watcher. So now it's like there's all these rumors about what's going on with the family, that they're having legal troubles, they might get a divorce. The wife basically cries anytime she has to deal with anything with the house or anyone asks with her. So she goes to therapy. The therapist clinically diagnoses her with having PTSD. The Derek, the husband, he's going around the alarms are going off at the house sometimes in the middle of the night. He has to go there. If it's in the winter, he has to go over there, shovel the driveway, even though he's not living there. He always feels the need to bring a knife with him because you feel so unsafe there. So imagine that level of stress. You're going to this home, you're living at your in-laws, but you're going to the home that you own that you can't move in, but you're paying the property taxes, you're paying the mortgage, and you're just you have this weight on you financially, but also just your whole life is fucking miserable because of the Watcher.
I feel like at that point, I don't know who would do it for him, but at that point, send someone over there to get that tax bill. Send someone over there to, shovel the driveway. I'm not going over there again if I'm him.
Me neither, but maybe it's a legit financial issue. Do we want to have another $50 to have someone or whatever it costs to do the driveway? Or do I have to just go over there myself because we can't afford, because we have this huge overhead of the taxes and the mortgage of a home that we can't move into?
Yeah, so they were also living in one of the parents' houses.
Maria's parents, which was nearby.
Yeah, still paying taxes. I think they asked for some a tax break or something, and that got denied. So
they got denied by the town left and right.
Yeah.
So they'd be, like we said, they couldn't sell it. So to anybody, any reasonable person would be like, I'm not fucking moving into a house like that. It's haunted. It's getting these creepy letters. They just couldn't sell it. The only person who was willing to buy it was a developer. And his plan for it was just to take that house, knock it to the ground, burn it, and then actually split the property into two and have two lots on that property in two separate homes. But anytime you do something like that, it has to fit the town specifications and it has to be approved by a board. So they bring this case to the board, and their lot sizes are off by a yard. So it's 3 feet. So those lots in that neighborhood, they're supposed to be 70 feet. These were about 67 when you split the 657 into two separate lots. So the board said, nah, fuck you guys. And they denied it. And they had a long history of actually approving these. They actually approved a similar change, which needed a larger exception in 2018. So the neighborhood was just like, hey, we're not doing that. So that kind of leads, it's interesting because after that got denied, another letter popped up.
Yeah, another letter popped up. And mind you, what did you think of his... of him releasing the letters to the people that were potentially buying the houses, if you want to go back for a second here?
I think that's a good guy move.
Yeah.
Because, you wouldn't want to have that happen to what happened to you happen to somebody else. They sued, because they felt the Woods didn't disclose the fact that there was a Watcher. So they're like, we're not going to do that. So they showed the letters to any potential buyers.
Yeah, and they said there was people from Staten Island coming in, we're not afraid of this bullshit. And the people just disappeared. So
yeah,
these letters were definitely scaring people away. So then he had to kind of take it into this situation where you just want to, get it demoed, sell it off to a developer, make it into two lots. And then, like you said, the next letter came, and that letter reads this. Violent winds and bitter cold to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria.
Rude.
Very rude. You wonder who the Watcher is. Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me, one of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the Watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. Good move. Then it goes, my soldiers of the Boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard with my orders. All hail the Watcher. Then it goes into, Maybe a car accident, maybe a fire, maybe something as simple as a mild illness that never seems to go away, but makes you feel sick day after day after day after day after day.
Lyme disease.
Nope, Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Back to another Tinfoil Tuesday. Maybe the mysterious death of a pet, a loved one suddenly die, planes and cars and bicycles crash, bones break. I mean,
Again, dark and like almost flaunting now. Like he's running up the score on him. Not only you're not moving in, you can't sell it. Now I'm like putting extra curses out on you and your family. Even your dog isn't safe. Like that's a tough look. So feel bad for the Broaddus family at this point.
yeah, big time. And because now it's like is there something to this? Like nothing's working. Like everything's getting shot down.
And they tried. They tried to catch this guy. They hired, they went back to the police. Police couldn't do anything. They luckily lived across the street from this the CEO of a security firm called Kroll, so they were able to hire a private investigator. He couldn't really come up with anything, and then they also hired a world-renowned forensic linguist, and he kind of evaluated the way the wording was of the letters versus all these chat rooms and message boards and everything from in and around the area, Facebook posts, scoured the internet trying to find a match. He couldn't do anything either. So they've exhausted all their resources trying to, protect their family, protect their investment, and just get out from underneath this legitimate watcher, which has now manifested into being a curse.
and nothing was really working.
Nothing worked.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
And then so where does this lead him then, Chief? So that doesn't get passed. What's his next move now?
Well, now they're luckily enough, they find a renter for the house. So now that allows them to lift some of the financial burden. Obviously not great because they couldn't sell it, but this family moved in that they had dogs and grown children, and they were able to, be okay with it. And that's actually when that other letter came in. But so once they received that letter about that the renters actually found, they brought it to the police again, and then there was an out clause in the lease with these renters being like, hey, if another letter shows up, because there had been some time beforehand, then you guys can get out of your lease. And the renters said, you know what, just install more security cameras and we'll stay. So they that burden was kind of lifted by them, and now this is a well-known story all over the place. And there's still to this day no arrests have been made. There's no firm suspects, and it's just rumors and conjecture at this point. And there's three main suspects that people point fingers at, but none enough to bring charges or anything.
And there is another letter that was never released, right? That they never the people don't know the contents of.
Supposedly, yeah. Supposedly one final letter.
Okay, and was that to the renters or was that to? Is there a timeline on that? Does anyone really know that?
I don't know the details. What did you see on that?
I saw that. I saw someone ask somewhere, will it ever be released? And there was a comment where Derek said that no, the fourth letter will never be unlikely.
Unlikely to be released.
Yeah.
There was the other thing where Derek was actually writing some letters himself.
Yeah. Here's where it kind of gets interesting, and here's where I think, I guess, definitely lost some compassion from people. Definitely sparked up some antennas from people who thought it was a hoax. You know, because there was a part of people, something this is it's not Tuesday anymore, but Tinfoil Tuesday. People will think anything.
Oh, yeah.
People thought that he was just doing this so he could flip. There was a lot of conspiracies about
right.
this.
So they were actually a prime suspect at one point. So the Broaddus family. One of the things, and there's some jealousy maybe going on, but they went in a short period of time from a house that was worth $315,000 to one that was worth $770,000 to this $1.3 million house. So there was some speculation that perhaps they were having buyer's remorse because now they're burdened by this house that they can't really afford, and maybe they're in financial trouble, and we're just so desperate to be able to get out of it, sue to get out of get their money back from the Woods family and not buy that house or whatever, or sell it to this developer, that they concocted this elaborate scheme themselves. So that was a theory at one point.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously he takes big exception to, which
For sure.
understandable, but that's where it gets to when he was writing them himself.
Right. So he sent anonymous kind of threatening letters that were, it was said it was from the friends of the Broaddus family. And it was right around Christmas time, and it was right around when the vote was happening about what to do about that property regarding if they were able to sell it to the developer or not. So there was anonymous, like, you know, people who were on the board and some of the neighbors who had some voting potential, kind of like veiled threats about you better vote the way the Broaddus family needs you to vote. And I think people were like, this is weird. And like you said, antennas went up, and they were, you know, they eventually didn't vote the Broaddus family way. And he has actually since been like, yeah, that was me. But but at the time, he was, you know, he was trying to like kind of do what was being done to him supposedly, and force people to or maybe scare people into this change, into this vote.
You know what this watcher could have used? I mean, maybe just like a sub sandwich would have made him happy, and he would have been, went away.
You know,
How about that?
They say that if you're ever in court, you want an afternoon slot because the judge on a full stomach is a little bit more lenient. I can't even imagine how lenient a judge would be if he had a JP Graziano sub.
Yeah, if he had a Mr. G, Chief, did I tell you I had the Mr. G for the first time?
Oh, what'd you think?
It was awesome.
It's a great
It was
sandwich.
awesome. I got the Mr. G. No, you know what I liked the most about it? It was the hot oil. You really it really provides an extra bite.
Yep.
I tried the muffalata as well.
You know, and like people will probably say a sandwich is a sandwich is a sandwich. Go to JP Graziano's and try to say that. Like somehow that guy's a sandwich genius. All the flavors melt together. You're right. That hot oil takes it from an 8 to a 10. It's a great sandwich.
Yeah, it really does. I brought some of my Northside buddies up who are like, real sandwich snobs and shit, because we got some good spots over by us and they loved it. So yeah, go online at jpgraziano.com, enter the code DOGWALK, get 10% off a pickup or delivery. Say Eddy sent you at the window at the back. You'll get a free punch on your sub card, so you'll get that free sub sooner. Say at jpgraziano.com, 901 West Randolph. But going back to Derek, dude, I don't know, man. Like, he just was at his breaking point and he kind of lost his composure. That's why he did this. I don't know. It's a weird.
That's plausible to me. I mean, I can't imagine being in his position and you're so desperate to get out of this because your family's threatened. You'll probably do anything, including writing fake threatening letters yourself. So hard to really blame him too much after what had gone on the previous 2.5 years. With this watcher at 657 Boulevard. So that's he admitted it. But yeah, it's a crazy situation. They weren't the only suspects though. Like, there were a couple other suspects, and we can kind of break those down now. There's do you want to go into that?
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
So the first one was this guy who we don't have his name. He's just referred to as the gamer. Okay. So he was driving his girlfriend's car and stopped right in front of their house at 11 p.m. one night while the police and the private investigator were watching from a little while away in their car, almost like a stakeout with binoculars. And they saw this guy and they followed him home, and he lived like nearby, and they questioned the girlfriend but did not question him because he hadn't been home. And the girlfriend said that he plays some, quote, pretty dark video games, and they found out that one of his gamer tags was the Watcher.
Ooh.
Now, I don't want to offend like the video game culture,
But I'm about to offend.
but I'm about to offend you guys because I think of people who play like the games that aren't like FIFA or Madden or NHL. I'm a little suspicious of you guys in general. Okay, so you tell me that he's like gamer. That's strike one. Strike two, dark video games, not just normal like the Fortnites or whatever that most people play. Or strike one, strike two, your tag is the Watcher. Strike three, like, lock this guy up.
And they disproved this guy, though?
No. So what happened was they went back and the police were like, hey, we'd like to interview you. But it's just like, this isn't real evidence, right? It's not real evidence. I think it's real evidence. The legal system of America says it's not. So he agreed, like, hey, like, I'll come into the police station for an interview. This guy, the gamer. And he just no-showed. He was just like, yeah, I'm not going. And they didn't have enough probable cause or evidence to formally
Get a warrant
to have him come in. So that guy just, like, that was the end of that, was the gamer. So the gamer with the tag, the Watcher, just kind of goes off free. And again, like circumstantial evidence at best, but I would have brought him in.
The camera, yeah, you would have found enough to at least get him in for questioning.
For sure.
Who else?
They had this guy. He was a next door neighbor.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a weird situation. So his name was Michael Langford. He is a diagnosed schizophrenic. He's in his 60s. The house belongs to his mother, who was in her 90s. And it wasn't just Michael that lived with her. He had like several brothers and sisters, all adults, grown adults into their 60s, living in their mother's house. So right away, kind of like weird. And I guess Michael was known as like the neighborhood creep. Like they would kind of see him like peering in through windows, and they would see him most people, if you're going to walk by someone's house or walk home, you walk on the sidewalks until you get to your house. He doesn't believe in that. He does straight lines, like he'll walk right through your backyard to get home to his house. So it was just like, this guy's a little bit weird, but everybody in the neighborhood had known him because he'd lived there for forever, that they found him to be generally harmless. Like he would like bring your paper in, but just like you're a little sketched out.
Yeah.
So they did like the DNA test, no DNA matches. They asked him about it after the first letter because he would have a view of the back porch and things like that from where they live. They would be able to see that 657 they live right next door. And he denied knowing anything about that first letter, and the police kind of let him go. And then the second letter came, like after they had interviewed him the first time, like formally. So then people are like, well, that'd be pretty brazen to be brought in for questioning and then continue to write letters. Like that's kind of crazy and bold. And then when they asked the other neighbors, they didn't think that he was even capable of writing letters like this.
Yeah. I can understand that, because I mean, just because someone's odd and creepy, like it takes a special type of person that could actually write something like that and pull this off, I guess.
Right. And if you have some some serious mental issues, it's going to be hard to do.
Yeah.
So they just said they didn't think he could do it, and then when the DNA and all that stuff came back negative, they just kind of they told the Broadduses that they are ruling out the Langford family who live next door as potential suspects, because the Langfords the Broaddus were actually thinking of suing the Langfords civilly at one point too, because there's like, these are the creepy neighbors next door. Like, who else could it be? They referenced the daughter painting on the porch. Who possibly could have seen that besides them next door? So like the fingers were kind of, there's some things that lined up, but not enough for the police in New Jersey and the district attorney to actually press formal charges against them.
Okay, and so those are the two main ones, right?
And then the Broaddus family themselves. So like we talked about that, where people were saying that maybe this is a hoax, maybe these are bad people, they're in a desperate situation financially. And, they kind of contributed to, because they never really spoke to the press with the exception of one article. But they had over 300 media requests. They weren't really speaking about it. And, people would ask them about what I said about, you've kind of flipped over these houses pretty quickly, going from a $300,000 house to one that is worth $1 million more in not that much time. And he's just like, yeah, I've been successful. Like, yeah. I don't know what you want me to say. So that is kind of where the story has ended. Like there's no more letters other than that fourth letter.
The last thing was in August. The house was actually finally sold.
That's August, and then the previous December, they sold the rights to Netflix. So that undisclosed amount, I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet, but they sold the house for not like around $900,000, so $500 off their asking price, and obviously they lost money on that. But I'm guessing they made a fucking shit ton on the Netflix deal, the media rights. So they probably came out ahead financially when it's all said and done. That was sold in December of 2018 to Netflix. So we'll see. I'm excited. I'm hoping. I've read articles that it's more of a movie, like a horror movie thriller. I need like a Stephen Avery making a murder type documentary on this.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
But then also, we totally forgot as well, where that a lot of these people were disproved because it was found that it was a woman. It was a woman, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they did find DNA on one of the envelopes, and they tested the DNA, it came back, female DNA. So there was a daughter, Abby Langford, living in that house too, but the DNA on the envelope wasn't a match for her. So, they did one test. Oh, it's a woman. Let's test Abby Langford, see if it's her. Not a match.
Nothing.
So that's the point where they just ruled out the whole family. But they have no like good leads at this point. It's just an unsolved, creepy ass mystery.
Man,
soon to be movie.
Yeah, soon to be movie. All right, I think we're gonna wrap it there. We'll be there. We'll be ready for that Netflix movie. That's for sure.
I'm very excited for that.
All right, Chief. Thanks for this one. We appreciate it. That's it for today, everybody. We will catch you tomorrow.